There's a kind of silence in winter that you don't hear. You feel it. It wraps around you like a cold whisper. Pressing into your ribs, it muffles everything, even your thoughts. That day, it wasn't just snow falling, it was something heavier. Keanu hadn't planned to stop. The road stretched out like a lifeline, straight and silent beneath a ceiling of gray sky. He was just passing through the edge of a forgotten town, no name signs, no people, just snow-covered mailboxes. And broken fences. He hadn't spoken a word in hours, didn't need to. He was running from nothing and everything, but fate doesn't knock. It crashes in. That's when he saw it, a shape, barely visible through the thick curtain of falling snow, small. Still, lying at the edge of the road near a frozen ditch, he slowed the truck, heart tightening, instinct. Something about the shape didn't sit right. He stopped, opened the door. The cold hit like a slap. But he walked toward it anyway, one careful step at a time. It was a dog. No bigger than a backpack, shivering, soaked, ribs pressing through skin. Ice crystals formed on its eyelashes. It didn't even lift its head. Keanu knelt beside it, steam rising off his breath. "Hey, buddy," he whispered, the kind of voice only someone who's lost a lot learns to use. No sudden moves. Just presence, warmth. He pulled off his navy jacket and wrapped the dog in it. It didn't resist. Didn't move, just let go. Like it had been waiting for someone, anyone, to care. But then, something odd. A small bump under the fur near its neck. He gently brushed the matted hair aside, and there it was. A surgical scar, fresh, clean. His eyes narrowed. This wasn't from barbed wire or a fight with another animal. This was a human hand. Surgical. Intentional. He carried the dog back to his truck, laid it on the passenger seat, turned up the heat, watched as tiny shudders moved through the creature's body. Then he reached into the glove compartment and pulled out a device he hadn't used in a long time, a handheld chip scanner. He waved it over the dog's neck. Beep, a light blinked green, coordinates, latitude, longitude, no other data. Number. Pet ID, no name, no number. Just a set of numbers. Leading into the mountains west of town. What kind of dog carried coordinates inside its neck? He stared at the scanner, brows furrowed. Not the kind of expression you see in a Hollywood movie. This was deeper. The kind of expression worn by someone who's seen strange things and learned to pay attention. The dog let out a soft whimper. He looked at it. Its eyes fluttered open. Dark, wide, and human in a way that cut deeper than he expected. "Where the hell did you come from?" he muttered. The road ahead was still covered in ice. But something told him this wasn't a detour. This was the road now. He shifted the truck into gear. And as the tires crunched slowly through the snow, he couldn't shake the feeling in his chest that he had just picked up more than a wounded stray back in the snow behind him, just under the top layer of frost. A second chip blinked red. And 30 miles away, someone's screen lit up. "He's taken it," a voice said in the shadows. "Let the hunt begin." The coordinates blinked on the scanner like a quiet heartbeat. -43.9821 N, 115.9281 W. Somewhere deep in the mountains, remote, unmarked. Keanu stared at them. The numbers meant nothing on their own, but something in his gut twisted. He had followed coordinates before, in jungles, in deserts, but never from the neck of a half-dead dog. He glanced at the passenger seat. The dog was still breathing, shallow but steady, tucked inside his navy blue jacket like a fragile secret. Snow tapped gently against the windshield like time itself was trying to rush him. Keanu's truck rumbled to life as he turned off the main road. He didn't know what was waiting at the end of those coordinates, but he knew this wasn't just about a dog anymore. This was a breadcrumb trail, and someone wanted him to follow it. The winding mountain road was barely visible, covered in sheets of untouched snow, no tire marks, no footprints, just trees, silence, and a feeling like something was watching. The higher he drove, the thicker the fog grew. It wasn't natural. The snow didn't fall here. It floated, slow, suspended, like time had slowed down, or something was interfering. He remembered a mission. Years ago, Siberia, a Russian listening post buried under 12 feet of ice, same feeling, same silence. And just like now, they were testing something they shouldn't. His eyes flicked to the scanner again. He was getting close. Then the road ended. Just like that dead end, but the coordinates didn't stop here. They pointed straight ahead into the forest. No path, no trail, just white wilderness. Keanu opened the door, the cold stabbing his skin like knives. He zipped up the gray shirt under his jacket and reached behind the seat, pulling out a compact emergency pack. Then gently he lifted the dog into his arms. It whimpered, but didn't resist. "All right, little guy," he muttered. "Let's go find out what they didn't want anyone to find." His boots crunched over frozen ground as he stepped into the trees. Branches clawed at his shoulders, snow dripping from above. The cold here was different, thicker. Not natural. And then he saw it. A shape in the distance, a building or bunker. Buried into the side of a cliff. Steel doors, no markings. Just a small red light blinking above the entrance. He approached. Slowly, heart steady, steps cautious. As he neared the door, the red light turned green. Click. The steel hissed. The door opened. No one inside. Just a long, dark corridor lit by white LED lights, cold, surgical. Humming faintly, Keanu stepped in. The door closed behind him. And for a second, it felt like the mountains swallowed him whole. Inside, the temperature was warmer, eerily so. His breath no longer showed. The snow on his boots melted instantly. He followed the hallway, each step echoing. The dog stirred in his arms, sensing something. At the end of the corridor. A room. He stepped in. And froze. Cages, rows of them, not for animals, for people. Empty now, but still warm. Recently used. On the far wall, monitors, leaf feeds. Cameras showing roads, parking lots, airports. And one screen. It showed him. Keanu Reeves, walking into this very room, live. They knew he was coming. They'd been watching for a long time. He looked down at the dog. Its eyes were wide open now. Not afraid? Alert. Then it happened. A tiny beep. The scanner in his hand glowed red. New coordinates appeared. Another location. And under the numbers, a message. They took her. His stomach dropped. There were things in Keanu's past he never spoke of. People he lost. People he couldn't save. But now, someone had reached through that past and pulled him back in. He gently placed the dog on the table, grabbed his gear, and turned toward the door. He wasn't running anymore. Now, he was hunting. The silence inside the bunker wasn't natural. It was designed. Intentional, like everything had been engineered not just to contain, but to erase. Keanu Reeves stood in the center of the cold, sterile room, staring at the monitors that had been watching him long before today. Whoever built this place knew who he was, what he'd done, and more disturbingly, what he had lost. The message on the scanner burned into his eyes. They took her. He didn't know who her was yet, but the weight of those words unlocked something in him. A memory buried too deep to touch without pain. Years ago, a girl, small hands reaching for him. A promise made in the dark. A promise broken by something he couldn't control. He shook his head. Now wasn't the time? The dog rested on a padded table nearby. Its breathing steadier now, but its eyes tracked his every move like it knew more than it should. He approached the monitors again. Each feed was labeled with coordinates. Some familiar, places he'd been during missions he thought were blacked out and buried. Some were new, active feeds showing cold rooms like this one, each with cages, and something moving inside them. One screen caught his attention. A woman, mid-30s, dark hair, strapped to a chair. Barely conscious, he zoomed in, her face. It couldn't be. It looked like her, the one from before. The one from the fire. But she was gone, wasn't she? The scanner buzzed again. Not new coordinates. This time, an audio file. He hesitated. Then hit play. A voice filled the room. Male, deep, calm. You were never supposed to find her, Keanu. But you couldn't resist saving the dog, could you? She's alive because we allowed her to be. You have 12 hours to find her, before we change our mind. Then static. Keanu clenched his jaw. This wasn't a threat. It was bait. And he was already hooked. He looked at the coordinates. Attached to the video feed, they led to an old power station. Deep in the forest, abandoned for years, or so he'd heard. Now it was lit up like a heartbeat on the map. He turned back to the dog. "You're staying here," he muttered. "But the—" Dog growled low, almost defiant. He knelt beside it. "It's not your fight." The dog looked at him, eyes locked, unblinking. Then, as if responding to a memory only it could feel, it stepped off the table, stumbled, then stood tall, injured but determined. Keanu gave a half smile. "All right, but no hero stuff, that's my job." He geared up, strapped a sidearm to his leg, pulled a compact rifle from the case under the table, slid in a clip. Old instincts kicked in, hands steady. Mind clear, he hit the control panel. The steel doors hissed open. Snow roared in. The mountain was still waiting. As they stepped out, the green light above the bunker door flicked red again. Behind them, inside the now empty room, a second audio file activated. A timer appeared on the screen. Countdown initiated. 12 hours, 0 minutes, and 0 seconds. This wasn't just about finding her. It was about stopping something before it began. Keanu looked out at the forest stretching below. Somewhere in the trees, she was waiting. And someone else was watching. He pulled his collar high, looked down at the dog trotting beside him, limping but stubborn. "Let's go make some noise." The mountain air hit harder as Keanu moved deeper into the forest. The trees here weren't just tall, they felt ancient. Watching, judging. Every footstep was swallowed by snow. Every breath came in clouds. But even with the cold gnawing at his bones, his pulse stayed steady. The dog limped beside him, tail low but unbroken. They didn't make a sound. Didn't need to. The map on his scanner led through the trees, downhill, toward the edge of an old ravine, where the power station was buried behind decades of frost and silence. But then Keanu stopped. He knelt slowly, brushing away the snow with a gloved hand. Tripwire, thin as fishing line, almost invisible, strung between two trees, leading to a small black cylinder buried beneath the surface. Explosives. He glanced around. This wasn't just surveillance. This was a kill zone, and he'd walked right into it. He scanned again, a second wire, a third. This entire forest was rigged like a hunting ground, and he was the prey. He looked down at the dog, which had also stopped. Its ears perked, a low growl escaped its throat. Then came the sound, a click. Behind them, Keanu turned instantly. Eyes scanning the trees. Movement. A figure, cloaked in white camo, raised a rifle from the shadows, without hesitation. Keanu dove to the side, grabbing the dog mid-motion as a silenced round cracked through the air. They rolled behind a log, snow exploding around them. Another shot. Closer. He drew his sidearm and fired twice into the trees. No sound. Just that silence again, until a thud hit the snow. One down. But Keanu knew better. This wasn't a random shooter. This was a team, and he was in their playground. He waited, breath slowing, listened. 3 minutes passed. Nothing. Then a whistle, sharp, piercing. The dog growled again and then bolted. Keanu shouted, "No!" But it was too late. He sprinted after it, weaving through trees and traps, heart hammering, and then, ahead, the dog stopped, barking furiously at a dark figure on the ridge. Keanu raised his weapon, but froze. The man standing there wasn't aiming. He was holding something, a collar, blood-stained, familiar. The man smiled and spoke, just loud enough for the wind to carry it. "We remember you, John." Not Keanu, not Mr. Reeves. John, a name buried in shadows, a name not spoken in years, one only his enemies still used. Then the man turned and vanished into the trees. Keanu rushed forward, but he was gone, nothing but the collar left behind. He picked it up, cold, still wet. And on the tag, a name carved into metal. Sierra. His chest tightened. Not from cold, from memory. The girl, the one from the fire, the one they took. The one he buried, or thought he did. He looked at the dog, still staring up at him, silent now. This wasn't just revenge. This was personal. Keanu's jaw clenched. Whoever set this up didn't just want to kill him. They wanted to wake him up, Dot. And now, they had. He clipped the collar to his belt, eyes burning with quiet fire. Let's end this. Keanu didn't speak as he moved through the trees. The collar in his hand wasn't just a message. It was a memory. A life he had failed to protect, or had been tricked into thinking he had. Sarah. That name hit harder than any bullet ever could. She was the last piece of his old world. The only thing innocent in a life built on violence. The only person who had called him something other than an assassin. Or a weapon. She called him Uncle John. He remembered the way she used to run barefoot through the grass outside that old safe house, giggling as the dog, a pup back then, chased her in circles. He remembered the smell of burnt wood and the fire. The fire that was supposed to be an accident, but now? Now he wasn't so sure, because if she was still alive, that meant everything they told him was a lie. The power station appeared ahead, a dark skeleton of steel and broken concrete, hidden in the snow like a dead god. No lights. No sound, but Keanu could feel the presence inside, like a pressure in his lungs. Like someone watching from the shadows of time. He approached slowly, scanning the perimeter. The dog moved beside him, quiet, limping, but alert. They passed a fence half buried in snow, barbed wire. Signs long faded. Keanu spotted movement on the upper floor. Just a flicker. He didn't wait. He entered the building through a side door, weapon raised, every sense burning. Inside, the air was thick, not with dust, but something worse. Pain. Regret. The kind that never leaves. A hallway stretched ahead, lined with broken tiles and rusted pipes. Then a sound, a laugh, soft, familiar. It came from an old intercom. On the wall, he raised his weapon, ready for a trap, but the intercom crackled again, and then a girl's voice. Uncle John? He froze. That voice. Older, but unmistakable. Sarah. He pressed the intercom button. Where are you? He demanded. No response. Just static, then a whisper. They're making me forget you. The line went dead. Keanu's chest tightened. He pushed forward, fast now, down hallways that twisted like a nightmare. Rooms filled with shattered glass, overturned chairs, and restraints. This place wasn't abandoned. It was used. Maybe still in use. Then he found it, a room marked D7. He kicked the door open and froze. Inside was a wall, covered in photos of him, different eras, different locations. Some taken from rooftops, others from inches away, surveillance. Years of it. In the center. A photo of Sarah, recent. She was alive, but her eyes were wrong, empty, like something inside her had been turned off. Then he saw the headline tacked underneath it. Project Sarah, subject memory recreation phase. Complete. What the hell did that mean? He turned to the corner of the room, a desk, a monitor, and a single USB drive blinking red. He plugged it in. The screen lit up, footage played, a lab, white, cold, Sarah, older now, strapped to a chair. Tubes. In her arms, a man stood over her, the same one from the ridge. We took her because she's the only thing you can't kill, John. Because even a killer has a soul, and we needed yours broken. Keanu stepped back from the screen. His fists clenched. This wasn't about leverage. It was about breaking him. And now they were close, but not close enough. He turned, stormed out of the room, and made his way toward the basement where the signals were strongest. If she was here, he'd find her, and if they weren't bluffing, if they really did take her memory, he'd bring it all crashing down. Keanu moved like a shadow through the belly of the facility. Every step forward peeled back another layer of his past. Not just what they did to Sarah, but what they tried to do to him. The dog walked beside him, limping but loyal, never once. Straying from his side, ahead, steel doors loomed, reinforced, secure. He'd seen doors like these before, in places that weren't meant to exist, places that erased people from the world without a sound. But this time, the silence would break. Their way, Keanu reached for the keypad, but before he touched it, it clicked. The door opened on its own. Smoke rolled out like the breath of some sleeping beast. Inside. Voices, machinery, cold lights humming. A lab, built underground, pulsing like the heart of a machine that fed on pain. He stepped inside. Sierra was there, restrained in a glass chamber, eyes half open. Mind caught between now and somewhere they'd forced her to go. A man in a white coat turned toward Keanu, not startled. Expecting him. "You came," he said calmly. "You always do." Keanu raised his weapon. "Open the chamber," the man smiled. "You still think this is about rescue?" He tapped the glass. "This is about remaking. She remembers what we allow her to." "She's not your experiment," Keanu growled. "No, she's yours." The man replied, "Your consequence, your punishment. You trained killers, we trained minds. Now we train you." He pressed a button on his wrist. Instantly, alarms. Red lights. Doors locking, footsteps echoed, heavy, synchronized. Armed guards emerged from the smoke. 10, 15, more. Keanu didn't flinch. The dog growled, backing against the corner. He dropped the first 3 before they touched their triggers, silent, precise, brutal. He moved like a storm, no wasted motion, no hesitation, but they kept coming. He took a hit to the side, spun, returned fire, dropped 2 more, 1 bullet grazed his shoulder. Another shattered a glass monitor beside him. He reached the chamber, placed a device on the lock, sparked it, fried it. The chamber hissed. The glass slid open. Sarah collapsed forward, right into his arms. He held her like he was holding everything he'd lost. Everything he'd failed? She looked up at him, dazed, and then a whisper. "Uncle John?" He nodded. "I'm here." But there was no time. Behind them, the man in the white coat tried to flee. Keanu didn't even aim. 1 shot? Clean justice. Then he lifted Sierra, held her close, and bolted. Explosions echoed behind them, the lab tearing itself apart. A failsafe, no doubt. He ran past the dog, who barked and limped beside them as flames rolled through the corridor. Steel bent. Lights burst. And finally, daylight. He burst through the exit just as the mountain roared behind him. The ground shook. The air cracked. And then silence. Keanu collapsed to his knees, Sierra in his arms. The dog lying beside them. The snow began to fall again, soft, gentle, like it hadn't just witnessed hell. Sierra opened her eyes fully now. "You came back for me," she whispered. He looked at her, pain in his eyes, but also peace. "I never left," he said, and then the dog whimpered and nestled into Sierra's side, as if it had always known she was the reason. She smiled, and for the first time in years, Keanu did too. Because sometimes the war doesn't end when the enemy dies. It ends when you remember who you were fighting for, and he had finally remembered.